Hey guys, so as a lot of you guys know, I am a huge Batman fan, and some of my favorite characters are in the Batman family of characters, and one of them is Clayface, and this is a new McFarlane DC Multiverse Clayface figure. I'm excited. This is one of the characters I was really jazzed to see McFarlane's take on when he got the DC license, and he is a mega fig, which means he's usually like, you know, an 8 to 10 inch figure. This is the alternative to Build-A-Figures, which I'm all about. I'd rather pay $40 for a giant figure in a box than have to buy 6 figures. I picked him up at Target. Unfortunately, they put him out on $327. If he had been out a day earlier, I could have done the buy 2 Batman figures, get 1 free deal to get this guy. But hey, they knew what they were doing. So here's Clayface. Here's his box, which is massive. On the side, it says Clayface. Here he is in the box. Here is the bottom. Here's the top. Here's the other side. And here is the UPC. I will tell you, this is not going to help you all that much because he comes in on the UPC for DC Mega Figs in general, which includes the Batman 12-inch statues. So you want to keep this out. Also, most stores are getting 2 figures per this shipment. It's 1 Clayface and 1 Arkham Asylum from the video game DC Arkham Titan Joker. This is when he's the monster at the end of Arkham Asylum that's all roided out with the Titan serum, and he's got the mohawk. So if you try the code, it works for both of them. So we're gonna open this up, and here is the back. By the way, notice there is no actual picture that the artwork is based on. This is just like a photoshopped image of the figure with light up eyes. The eyes do not light up. So we're gonna open him up right now. He has no accessories. There is a stand in the back. Hopefully we won't need it for that. So through the magic of editing, we're going to pause it and he's going to be out of the box. And then we're going to compare him with the DC Multiverse Build-A-Figure Clayface and the Mattel Superheroes Clayface and see which is the best Clayface. So all right, and here is Clayface. Mind you, I had to cut off 4 stickers on the box. There's also 2 more pieces of tape holding his plastic tray in the box. And he's got like 3 giant bunches of zip ties. Now, here's the first thing I'm going to tell you about this figure. This is very clearly an example of they sculpted this as like, you know, like a still figure, like the latter day McFarlane figures that are basically like, you know, Hummels without very, and then they carved in the articulation after the sculpt was done. This is very much a case of like, here's the sculpt, find places to put articulation. There's not that much articulation in this figure. He's basically like a giant sculpture. I saw a couple of the early reviewers that were sent this figure that were talking about how it has like yellow specks of paint on it, and those must have been like early like paint masters, because there's not really any yellow in here. It looks like clay. Like there's some orange like dry painting, and that's kind of to make it look a little bit more like this stuff. It looks a little bit more like the cartoon Clayface. And then there's a lot of black dry brushing, especially on the chest, to make the faces a little more visible, and on the mouth. I also like the way they did the gums. Here's what I'll say: his head turns. It's kind of pointless because it won't hold it. And this is hollow. Like, this is like rotocast, like hard plastic rotocast. The arms, like, there's a ratchet here to make it go up and down. Like, you can see it like right here, but it's like I said, it's part of the sculpt. Like right here where my hand is, that is a ratchet to make it, you see, right there and right there. I don't, like, it moves, but it's like barely, you know, like there it goes, but it breaks up the sculpt really bad. Like, it's not like it wasn't meant to be there. It was like, let's cut that in with computer. So I mean, if you do it, I think eventually you'll get it. I like this hand. If anything, this is one of those figures where like the articulation should have been really easy to hide. But like I said, it was put in as an afterthought. Like, see, like the ratchet has sculpting in it. That's an afterthought. This one, like, I can't even make this arm go up at all. Like, here's the ratchet. You see it right there? Like, right, maybe there I can make it. It doesn't go, dude. It does not go. And like I said, there's one on this hand, but like, you know, there's the ratchet. See it? See it right there? It's not going. Like, you get a blow dry to this, maybe you can make it move. But it's just weird how inconsistent that is. And this is rubber overlay. Like, if you have the Arkham Origins figures, it's like what Copperhead is made out of, that rubber overlay, so there's internal articulation. And there's some in there, like it's right here. You know, it's probably to cover up that this is hollow so they can still get some going. Because you see, it's like, you can see it right there. This is a diaper, this is a diaper, but like, I don't know what the point is, because it's not like he doesn't really have an ab crunch. I mean, you can get it like that, you know, to give him a little more roar. This guy's more wide than anything, because I'm going to tell you the thing, I like this figure. Don't get me wrong. I like the face. I wish that, like, you know, this could have been carved out and they could have just kept this round and had that clay face look. I'm probably going to keep him more like this, but this whole thing could have been round. Just carve it out right here, you know. I don't like the feet, because look, I pull it back, you can see, like, it's just, this is cool. I mean, like, the painting looks inconsistent in light, you know what I'm saying? But like, the feet are just puddles, you know what I'm saying? And right here, that's the one place where like you really get poop vibes, because there's no defined feet. And that's kind of like just give him like claw feet or something, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not that this is a bad sculpt either, because look, there's faces like everywhere. Like, this thing is like super detailed in that regard, except for like, I feel like the paint kind of defeats him a little bit. Like, I might go in and dry brush it, because like, it's like, this is really good, this is good, and then like, it's like they stop down here. Like, you know, for $40, I think you could get more paint apps than this. You know what I'm saying? You know, but it's like they hit certain areas. And from the top, I like the width. I almost wish, because you got good claw here on this hand, right? And I like this right here, and I'm going to show you what that's from. And like, I want to see if you can see it. Like, right on over Clayface's head is the DC collectibles Arkham City Clayface, and that thing, he's twice as big as this guy, but like, at least he's the same kind of brown too, but he's too like sculpty, you know. If that figure was more like this is kind of like a mishmash of the Arkham City Clayface and the animated one, because he even has the same like spikes here, like to show some kind of morphing. And there's spikes all over this guy, so you kind of have to be careful, because he's pretty sharp. But he doesn't have an alternate hand that's like a ball or anything, and that's kind of a bummer, you know. But like, other than that, he's a really good figure, you know. Like, right here, I wish there'd be something more, but I guess it's so there's no rub if his arms are down. But just, I'm going to compare him to a couple of other Clayfaces here. All right, so this is the DC Multiverse Clayface Build-A-Figure. And this, I'm going to point out the thing I wish this figure had done. There is black dry brushing all over this guy, all the way down. Do you see it? Like right here. And he even has like feet-ish. It's like a lump, but it stops. It doesn't turn into an overflowed toilet. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then he's got like proportions. You know, his feet are still stubby, but you know, it's still kind of like DC animated style. Like this guy, ultimately I like the build on this one better, but I like the paint job on this guy better, you know? And this one does what I'm saying. Because look, see how it's round? This is what I mean. It's like round. So you can open his mouth, and he still has that round thing going on the whole time. Versus this guy, now suddenly has like a square jaw. You know what I'm saying? Like, I prefer this jaw action. And I'm going to show you what is probably, I think, the best Clayface out of all of them. Is this one, which is a damn 20-year-old figure, you guys. This, or older. This is from like 2000, 2001 or something. Excuse me, guys. These things are heavy. Don't put them near your lap. So, like, you see this thing here on the fingers is what this one here is homaging. See it right here? That webbing. And this is one of those figures that if you take care of it, it'll last forever. He's smaller as fuck. I mean, like, you know, well, not even really. They're kind of... He's a good 1.5 inches, but I'm like saying that's not like a terrible size difference, you know? It's only the last couple years that Clayface has sort of become a giant, you know? It's like a hulkish kind of thing. But this guy's perfect in terms of like, he's well sculpted. He's got that round thing. I mean, he can go, you know, I mean, from the side, it's not so much. Like, this could be improved. You know, but he's like the Batman, the animated series kind of, but he's like, you know, sort of updated, you know? He doesn't have any, but like you can see there's like spikes here, which is what this figure's trying to do. Like clearly this guy took inspiration from a lot of stuff, you know? The one downside, this guy has rubber arms, like with a metal wire inside. So it's like, oh, you can kind of make him hold shit, but you got to be careful because over time, if you keep it in a certain pose, the rubber will crack. So I always kind of kept this guy's arms akimbo, but even then it'll still kind of crack, you know? So yeah, if you're careful with this figure, it'll pretty much last you for a long time. But his mouth, his head is perfect. And the feet, he's got feet, you know? It's like as time went on, we started off with feet, went away from it, and then you finally end up with this. And ultimately here's the main thing about that I'll talk to you about this, all right? And I've been going on for a while, but this is a pretty in-depth review. Is these feet clearly were not sculpted with articulation in mind at all. It was probably just meant to be static feet. Because look at the sculpt. Can you see it? It's just, where's the ratchet? Because it wasn't sculpted with it in mind. So they just cut into the sculpt. So when you open it up, it looks weird as hell. And this one, I'm putting some traction on it. But yeah, that's about as much as it goes. Like it doesn't really do anything because of the way the feet are. Like, you know, you look at his feet, you're just getting this, you know? And it's like, yeah, so he knows, McFarlane knows that he's just going to be like this. So this articulation here is totally worthless. Totally worthless. You can kind of ratchet it to the side back and forth, but does that really do much? I mean, like, there you go. Maybe you could do that. That's as far as it goes. Literally, that is as far as it goes. You know, it's only like a little bit higher than the other foot. So I don't know. And they're ratcheted so it will hold it. It's just one of those things where, like, I really like this character a lot. Clayface is one of my favorite characters. He's probably my favorite Batman villain. He looks cool. He's going to be imposing. I just, like, wish he could do more and didn't feel like, you know, like, kind of an afterthought. Like, you see, he's got a butterfly joint in there. You know, you can, like, if you can see it, you can see all the innards there. So why is this part not the overlay, but this? This should be the overlay. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if I get him like this, yeah, it's cool. He's pretty damn wide. Let me just put this in perspective here. He's a straight up foot across. His arm span is huge. You can make his arms literally, yeah, that's like 14 inches. So he can have a pretty big footprint, you know? Because, you know, height-wise, he's about, let's see here. He is about 8.5 inches tall. He's 8.5 inches tall, you know? And he can be 14 inches wide. So he can look much more imposing. It's just one of those things where, like, at least from a play perspective, like, there's ways this could have been done. And like, if you utilize this in here, you can get more. But, like, you know, oh, now let's have him fight, you know, older Clayface here. But it's like, can he hold that? I mean, possibly. You know, but that's not an action pose you're going to put him in, especially if he's on a shelf. He'll come tumbling down after a while, you know. I don't know. I don't want to sound like mega critical. Clearly, I am a bit. And like I said, you can play with him, you can ratchet him, and you'll probably end up like, because as I'm fucking around with him more, I'm digging him more. But ultimately, you know, he could have been better. He is pretty cool, but I'm, like, disappointed at how stiff these ratchets are on the hands and how most of the sculpting is an afterthought. Like, if you look at it here, they're using this face here to cover up the joint when it goes up. This one's cool because, look, his elbow is an arm, you know? So somebody clearly did have a lot of fun sculpting this. Don't get me wrong. It's just I wish there was, like, more done to delineate some of this cool sculpting in the figure. And I'm probably just going to have to go in myself and dry brush some of this stuff to draw attention to it. Because, like, it gets lost unless you're looking for it. And this is one of the more clever things I've seen, actually. You know, I'm digging around for stuff, and it's like, you know, all the lighter orange highlights just don't really work on this guy. Like, I wish that had been, like, done a different way, you know? But ultimately, this is what I'll say. The front of this, all this, awesome. The back needs more shading, and this needs more shading. And, like, ultimately, this is kind of like my thing with a lot of McFarlane figures. It's that they feel like model kits. Like, I can't even think of a figure now from McFarlane I bought that I haven't had to go in and repaint or touch up in some way because it's, like, missing paint apps. And I get it, part of it is to keep the prices down. But it's one of those things where, like, it used to be McFarlane was, like, the gold standard of painting. It was like you were getting a statue. I have so many McFarlane figures from 20 years ago that have better paint jobs than figures that came out, like, you know, this year. You know, and I get it. It was all cheaper then. But part of me is like, just sacrifice this articulation here and give me more paint apps. Because really, this is an afterthought. This is a complete fucking afterthought. You know, like that, you know, if you're not, and I know that Todd is like, oh, it's about the sculpt or whatever, you know, or whatever. And I get it, because this is a great sculpt. But, like, sometimes these things can work hand in hand. If you look at this guy, I mean, yeah, this joint is ugly. You know, floating ab joints didn't come around till, like, a few years later. But, like, this is a plastic overlay or a rubber overlay to hide, you know, seam lines. And then all this stuff, it just kind of like, you could sculpt this to hide the joints in ways that are creative, you know. And this whole thing was an experiment to like do these rubber joints, which was never used again, you know? I mean, the Hot Toys like still doesn't do this shit with the metal on. They've done it a few times, but it cracks eventually. But like, if you look at the head, you know, like, well, also not a good example, just back and forth. But all right, let's look at this guy who's much, much lighter than both of these guys, right? Much lighter than both of them. You know, he's more basic, but look, he's got, this is what I wanted from this, the new one, right? Look at that. You see it? It's like, it doesn't sound like a weird, like, clanky thing. He's got, like, the balls here. You know, these fists, they could have done something like this and switched them out with, like, weapons. You know, like, I get that this was a Build-A-Figure, and he's got, like, way more articulation. Like, he's got ball joints for feet. He's got ball joints for feet, you know? Like, give me that, you know? Like, dude, that's all I'm saying. It's just, you know? You could, like, the articulation of this guy, which holds, I mean, he even has a waist swivel on top of, you know, this, you know? Like, ultimately, I mean, how you know, not like I would trust to Build-A-Figure's articulation, because they always feel loose no matter what. Like, this guy, how do they stack up? They are exactly the same height. He's slightly wider. You know, I like the coloring on him more, but then you look at this, like, this could be an aesthetic choice. So ultimately, you know, they both also, he has a set of inner teeth too inside of his mouth. And you might say, oh, but this one looks cooler. He's actually based on the artwork in the comic. These are from the same storyline. DC, when Clayface is like a fucking member of the Batman family. These are actually from the exact, this is supposed to be the same version of this character. And it works. If you look at the art, there is, all these faces are from that same thing, but his face looks like this most of the time. So these are the same character. And this is Mattel, but mind you, you did have to buy 6 figures to get this one. This is like $100 Build-A-Figure, right? This is $40. This is also McFarlane taking some leave on his own, because unfortunately, if you do, this is Mattel like wanting a complete figure. If you read the actual issues, his feet are like this a lot, like just a pool of goo, you know. Ultimately, I feel like I would want something that's kind of a mishmash between the two of these, like these feet and this kind of paint job on this guy. And they both need hands you can take off and replace with extensions. Anyway, that's your pal Victor here comparing all the Clayfaces. You know, we also have the one back there, which I'm not pulling out. And I'll tell you, that one has a bunch of extensions, but it's pretty much a 5 POA figure. It's not that great. It's a statue, and I don't like the colored frieze on it or anything. So, if we're going to rank these, this is how I'm going to rank them, okay? This is how I'm going to rank them. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how it is. This could just as easily be number 2. But, you know, it is what it is. So that is my very long review of all the Clayfaces ranked and Clayface from McFarlane. So if you enjoyed this rant on action figure articulation over the years, please feel free to subscribe, like, all that stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in, and talk to you later.